Peter Hain gives a vigorous defence of the government's plans to reorganise the police. A few weeks later, it was all abandoned.
Well, Flynn, isn't the fact that the majority of the people of Wales have rejected this incoherent, uncosted shotgun wedding? And isn't it a question of when somebody suggests that opposing this means we're going to increase the risk of terrorism in Wales? Isn't that just cheap, vacuate, desperate scaremongering?
Well, I'm about to provide an answer to my honourable friend, and it comes from the lips of his own Chief Constable. The Chief Constable of Gwent has said, "We have more chance to give the public a policing service it desires by looking at the efficiencies of merging the four forces than we have as four forces standing alone." See, despite his rhetoric, the truth is that unless we do this, our police officers in Gwent, in North Wales, right across Wales, will not have the capabilities that the Inspector of Constabulary, not a politician, the Inspector of Constabulary says we need to deal with these modern forms of threats to our security, including terrorism. If he wishes to ignore that, that's his view. I'm not ignoring that as Secretary of State for Wales, and I'm providing the leadership that this government needs to provide to improve the security of our citizens.
Gillen.
Mr. Speaker.
For the first time ever in his political career, Charles Clarke reveals an intelligent policy on drugs. Sadly, a few weeks later, he resigned as Home Secretary.
Paul Flynn.
Shouldn't we take advantage of the very intelligent and progressive views of the leader of the opposition on drugs to have a consensus between us to look at what we're doing today, which is something that's based on evidence, what happened? There were dire warnings that reclassification was going to lead to an increase in cannabis. It has not. Why don't we look to Portugal, to Holland, to Australia and other countries and see what the practical outcomes are? We had 30 years in this country of harsher penalties followed by even harsher penalties and ended up with greater drug use here, greater drug problems than any other country in the world. Why can't we have a Royal Commission or a look again at the very balanced views of the Health Committee? Can I say finally, I welcome this report, of course, and I welcome the health campaign as long as it's balanced with a campaign against the dreadful harm caused by alcohol, tobacco and medicinal drugs.
Firstly, I agree, of course, with my honourable friend that evidence is the basis upon which one needs to proceed. We've sometimes argued about what the evidence tells us, but that's part of the general discussion that takes place. I do think sometimes the battle between alcohol and tobacco on the one hand and cannabis on the other is not a constructive one for this discussion. I think, as I said a moment ago, our approach should always be to reduce consumption of all drugs and work in that way. And of course, I look forward to hearing the outcome of the conversation between my honourable friend and the Leader of the Opposition about how their approaches to legalisation could indeed inform the whole House in perhaps an unholy alliance, I'm not sure, but nevertheless an interesting and constructive one.